Hello everyone. Today in this video I will tell you how to perform the cardiovascular system examination. First, general examination in detail which is related to the cardiovascular system, then inspection, palpation, percussion and auscultation. All the findings of the CVS examination we have to mention according to the thoracic reference lines and the cardiac areas. So there are 5 thoracic reference lines: mid-sternal, mid-clavicular, anterior axillary, mid-axillary and the posterior axillary. So in this video you can see this is mid-sternal line, this is mid-clavicular line, and in axilla this is anterior axillary line, this is mid-axillary line and this is posterior axillary line. And there are 5 cardiac area. First is mitral area at the apex. It is the lowermost outermost palpable apical impulse area, and tricuspid area is at the 4th and 5th left parasternal intercostal space, and the pulmonary area is at the 2nd left intercostal space near to left sternal border, and the aortic area A1 is at the 2nd right intercostal space near to the right sternal border, and there is a second aortic area A2 area in the 3rd left intercostal space near to the left sternal border. First you have to identify the angle of Lewis, and it is correspond to the second rib and below pulmonary area in 2nd left intercostal space, tricuspid area in 4th 5th left intercostal space, mitral area at the site of apex impulse, and the A1 first aortic area in 2nd right intercostal space near to sternal border, and the A2 area in 3rd left intercostal space. So now you have to perform the detailed general examination which is related to the cardiovascular system, and the detail of general examination I have already uploaded on this YouTube channel. So in this general appearance, growth status, vital parameters, any signs of congestive cardiac failure, any history of sweating on forehead, and cyanosis and clubbing. So in this picture you can see the child is having central cyanosis of nails and lips, and in this picture you can see the child is having the clubbing, and you have to check the pallor also. After that, inspection of the precordium. In inspection, shape of the precordium, then symmetry, then you have to see the apical impulse, any precordial pulsation, left parasternal lift, any visible veins or scar. So in this picture you can see the child is having pectus carinatum, and in this picture you can see the child is having bulging precordium because of the congenital heart disease. Then you have to check the apical impulse. If visible, then its location and the character. So in this video you can see the apical impulse is visible. Normally in less than 5 years age group, it is at 4th intercostal space just lateral to the mid-clavicular line, and more than 5 years age group, 5th intercostal space over or medial to the mid-clavicular line. If left ventricular enlargement, then lateral and inferior displacement occur. If right ventricular, then only lateral displacement occur. Then we have to check the character of apical impulse. Is it normal, or sometime absent or silent chest can be there, and sometimes due to hyperdynamic high cardiac output state, diffuse apical impulse can be visible. Then we have to check the any visible abnormal pulsation in the suprasternal, supraclavicular area, epigastric area, and in the parasternal area. So in this video, parasternal pulsation are visible, and in the all cardiac area we have to check the any visible pulsation, and also over the back and the neck area. After that we have to check any visible left parasternal lift is there, any visible veins or scar is there. Now in palpation we have to confirm all the findings of inspection. So we have to palpate the precordium for apex beat, point of maximum impulse. If you find any thrill is there, left parasternal heave, any precordial pulsation, palpable sound or pericardial rub, we have to palpate. For the apex beat, we prefer the fingertips. For the thrill, either the base of the fingers or hypothenar aspect of the palm we prefer, and for parasternal heave, wrist and the ulnar border of the palm should be preferred. So now in this video I am palpating for the apex beat. It is the lowermost outermost palpable cardiac impulse. We have to check the location and the character. Is it normally located or up or down or outward or inward or right side as seen in the dextrocardia? Then we have to check character by duration, amplitude and according to the size. So is it normal character, absent or feeble, or tapping or heaving or hyperdynamic character? So normal character when it is confined to one intercostal space, felt in less than 1/3 systole, not forceful. Sometimes absent or feeble apex beat can be seen in the condition of dextrocardia if it is present behind the rib, obesity, pericardial pleural effusion or emphysema. For this you can easily remember by trick Dr. OPE. Tapping apex beat is similar to the normal character, but it is with the palpable S1 seen in the mitral stenosis. And heaving apex beat when it is confined to one intercostal space, but it is forceful and sustained, present in more than 2/3 systole in pressure overload condition due to left ventricular hypertrophy, AS and coarctation of aorta. And the another is hyperkinetic or hyperdynamic apex beat when it is confined to more than one intercostal space, almost in the more than 3 cm area. It is forceful but ill sustained, present in 1/3 to half of the systole. It is seen in the volume overload condition when ventricular dilatation is there. Also in high cardiac output state condition, example anemia, thyrotoxicosis. Then we have to palpate for the point of maximum impulse. In left ventricle dominant condition, it is palpated at the apex, and in right ventricle dominant condition, it is palpated at lower left parasternal border. And then we have to check the thrill. Any thrill is palpable or not. If it is palpable, then the site and the timing of the thrill we have to mention. Example, systolic thrill in mitral area and lateral to it in MR, and diastolic thrill in mitral area internal to it in mitral stenosis, systolic thrill in pulmonary area in PS, and continuous thrill in pulmonary area can be in PDA. Systolic thrill in tricuspid area can be feel in ventricular septal defect, and systolic thrill in aortic and carotid can be seen in the aortic stenosis. And after palpating for the thrill, we have to check the parasternal heave. So either by using the ulnar border of the palm or by the wrist. So in this video you can see how to palpate for the parasternal heave. Then we have to grade its severity. Grade 1 when it is visible as a parasternal lift but not palpable. Grade 2 when visible, palpable and also obliterable. Grade 3 when it is not obliterable. It is seen in the condition when the right ventricle or left atrial enlargement is there. Then we have to check for any precordial pulsation in pulmonary artery dilatation in pulmonary area, and in suprasternal area if any pulsation is feel, it can be due to AR, AS and PDA. And in epigastric area if pulsations are feel, that means either right ventricle enlargement or aortic aneurysm. Feel at the pulp of the finger, that means aortic aneurysm. If at the tip, that means right ventricular enlargement is there. After that we have to palpate for any palpable sound. So palpable S1 at apex can be seen in mitral stenosis, palpable S2 at the pulmonary area, diastolic shock in pulmonary artery hypertension, and the palpable S3, S4 can be in MR, AS, cardiomyopathy, opening snap can be in MS. Then we have to palpate for any pericardial rub as seen in the acute pericarditis. Now cardiac percussion, its utility is very limited. So now I am going to tell you in brief. So for percussion of right heart border, we have to move from the mid clavicular line toward the right sternal border. If you find that the dullness not exceed the right sternal border, that means it's normal. In case of right atrial enlargement or pericardial effusion, dullness exceed the right sternal border. Now I am percussing for the left heart border. We have to move from the mid axillary line toward the left sternal border. Normally dullness corresponds to the apex. In case of pericardial effusion, dullness can be present beyond the apical impulse. Then we have to percuss the second left intercostal space. In this, if you find that dullness is more than 2.5 cm beyond the left external border, that means patient may be having pulmonary artery hypertension, left atrial enlargement, or the patent ductus arteriosus. After that, we have to perform the auscultation. In cardiac auscultation, for the low frequency sound, we prefer the bale part, and for the high frequency sound, we prefer the diaphragm. And the sequence of auscultation, we have to start the auscultation from the mitral area, then we have to move inch by inch and to the tricuspid area, then we have to auscultate the pulmonary area, then the first aortic area, then the second aortic area, and we have to auscultate the carotids and also over the back also, and we have to auscultate in sitting, leaning forward position and in left lateral position also. Cardiac auscultation is basically for the heart sounds and murmur. So normal heart sounds produced by the closure of heart valves S1 and S2. S1 by the closure of atrioventricular valve and the sound is like low pitch and prolonged. S2 by the closure of semilunar valve, dub sound, high pitch and short, and there is physiological splitting of the S2, two component aortic and pulmonary, and normal splitting which varies with the inspiration and expiration also in S2 sound. Now the abnormalities in the S1 sound according to the intensity of the S1. So loud S1 can be audible in MS, TS, sinus tachycardia, high output state condition, and the condition in which PR interval is short. And muffled and soft S1 is audible in conditions of MR, mitral regurgitation, tricuspid regurgitation, pericardial effusion, obesity, calcified mitral wall in late MS, and prolonged PR interval condition. Now the abnormalities in the S2 heart sound, as there are two components A2 and P2, so the loud A2 can be in systemic hypertension, AR, TGA, and soft A2 can be in aortic atresia, and delayed A2 component in aortic stenosis, PDA, and AR, LVF, LBBB, left bundle branch block condition, and early A2 can be in VSD and MR, and P2 loud can be in pulmonary artery hypertension, VSD, ASD, and soft P2 in condition of PS, PA, and TS, and the delayed P2 can be in PS, ASD, TA, PVC, and right bundle branch block. Now the abnormal splitting of S2 heart sound. In this picture you can see normally during the expiration A2 and P2 is almost closely split or single, while during inspiration veil audible split is present between A2 and P2. If you find that wide and variable splitting both during inspiration and expiration is present, then it may be in MR, VSD, or PS. If wide and fixed split, then the ASD, TA, PVC, RBBB. And if paradoxical or reverse splitting, P2 component is audible before the aortic, then it can be in AS, PDA, AR, or systemic hypertension, and single second sound can be audible in condition of TOF, TGA, pulmonary artery hypertension, severe AS, PA, or AA. Abnormal S3 and S4 heart sound, also known as the gallop rhythm, and third S3 gallop rhythm can be physiological in children also. It is because of the rapid ventricular filling, and sometime in the condition of pericarditis, myocarditis, congestive cardiac failure, S3 gallop rhythm is audible. And S4 fourth heart sound, it is always pathological, seen in the condition of constrictive pericarditis, systemic hypertension, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. It is because of the rapid emptying of the atrium. And when S3, S4 both are there, then we label as a quadruple gallop rhythm. Another abnormal heart sound is the click sound. Normally by the opening of semilunar valves, there is a no audible sound. And in the condition of aortic stenosis and pulmonary stenosis, ejection systolic clicks are audible because of the opening of semilunar valves, and mid systolic click in the condition of MVP, and multiple clicks are audible in Epstein anomaly. Another is the opening snap. It is because of the mitral and tricuspid wall stenosis. It is again by the opening of stenosed mitral and tricuspid leaflet, it is high pitch loud sound at the apex. It can be audible in the ASD and VSD also. Pericardial rub, which is audible in the condition of pericarditis. It is high pitch rubbing sound, to and fro, cracky, scratchy, machine like quality sound. It is audible at left sternal border in leaning forward position in pericarditis. Now after these heart sound, murmurs, we have to auscultate for any murmur is there or not. It is caused by the normal flow through the abnormal wall or abnormal flow through a normal wall. We have to differentiate, is it the functional or innocent murmur, or is it the pathological murmur or the flow murmur. Whenever murmur is audible, we have to describe the murmur by all these points. So for this there is a trick, a script in which S stands for site or area of maximum intensity, C for the character or configuration, R for radiation, also for respiration variation, and I for intensity or grading, P for pitch or frequency, P also for the variation with posture, and T for timing or phase of the cardiac cycle. There are few characteristics of the functional or innocent murmur. It is always short and soft systolic, not radiating grade 1 or 2 with the normal S1, S2 normal cardiac impulse, no evidence of any hemodynamic abnormality. And characteristic of pathological murmur, it may be pansystolic murmur, and all diastolic murmurs are pathological. Murmur associated with the thrill, harsh quality with abnormal heart sound, and murmur which is radiating is all pathological. Now we have to decide the site of the murmur or location of maximum intensity of the murmur. So if you find the murmur is audible at the apex or mitral area, then it can be MR, MS, MVP, AS, or functional murmur is also at the apex. If at the tricuspid area, then it can be VSD, TR, TOF, or endocardial cushion defect. If it is audible at the pulmonary area, then it can be because of ASD, PDA, pulmonary stenosis, PAPVC, TAPVC, and aortic stenosis. If it is audible at the aortic area, A1 area, then it can be supravalvular and subvalvular aortic stenosis or AR. Then after the site, we have to check the character or configuration, either it is diamond shape, crescendo, decrescendo, holosystolic, or continuous murmur. So in this picture you can see aortic stenosis murmur is diamond shape, and in mitral insufficiency and tricuspid insufficiency you can see the configuration is holosystolic. So we have to check the character and configuration. After that we have to check the radiation and the variation with the respiration. So example, murmur of MR radiate to the axilla, and the murmur of AR radiate to the apex area from the aortic area. Similarly, the murmur of PR radiate along the left sternal border. So we have to check the radiation. Then variation of the murmur with the respiration. So all the left sided murmur well heard in the expiration, while the right sided murmur well heard in the inspiration. Also we have to check the intensity of the murmur with the changing the posture. Example, MDM murmur of the MS best heard in left lateral position, while the EDM murmur of AR best heard in sitting and leaning forward position. So variation of the murmur with respiration and posture gives a clue. Now the fourth point, intensity and the grading of murmur. So for the systolic murmur, we label as a grade 1 when it is barely audible, grade 2 medium intensity, grade 3 loud but no thrill, grade 4 loud with the thrill, grade 5 very loud, still need a stethoscope on the chest, grade 6 when it is audible with the stethoscope lifted off the chest. So this is the grading for systolic murmur. Now for the diastolic murmur, grade 1 very soft, grade 2 soft, grade 3 loud, and grade 4 loud with thrill. All diastolic murmur are pathological. Then fifth point is we have to check the pitch or the frequency of the murmur. Is it high or medium or the low pitch or frequency? So example, AR murmur is the high pitch murmur, while the EDM murmur in PR is the medium pitch, and the MDM murmur in mitral stenosis is the low pitch sound. Then we have to check the timing or the phase of the murmur. So for this we have to simultaneously palpate the carotids also. If you find murmur is audible with the carotid pulsation, that means it is a systolic murmur. If it is the systolic murmur, then we have to mention, is it the ejection systolic murmur as in AS, PS, ASD? Is it the pan-systolic murmur in VSD, MRTR, or late systolic murmur as in MVP? If it is diastolic murmur, then again we have to mention, is it early diastolic, mid diastolic, or the functional murmur? Early diastolic as in AR, PR, mid diastolic in MS, TS, and functional murmur are Gram-Still, Carey-Coombs, Austin-Flint murmur. And the continuous murmur when it is present both during systole and diastole. Example in PDA, arteriovenous fistula, and the venous hum. Venous hum is audible at first, second right intercostal space near to sternum. It is common innocent murmur in less than 5 years age group. We have to differentiate it from PDA murmur because it is also the continuous murmur and it is accentuated in early diastole. So this is all about the cardiovascular system examination. Thank you so much.